Hey guys, and welcome to how to paint blue flesh on a Royal Decapitator for Flesh Eater Quartz in Age of Sigmar. Okay, so today we're going to be going through and doing some blue flesh, a little bit different to the one I've done in the past. We're going to be doing some underpainting, overpainting, but with a few different colors this time. So we've got some new paints I've bought recently from the Armor Painter range, the War Paints Thunderous Blue. We've got some other blues there that I've used before, and this Marine Mist, and some Jade there, some purple, magenta, and white. And so we're going to be going through and building up some nice purple magenta undertones, moving up into some blues and into these sort of paler tones here, and up into some off-whites, and just get into some fun combinations there with a little flash of jade mixed in there somewhere to help give a little bit of contrast against the magentas and purples. So I think that'll be really fun and an interesting one to do, and it goes along with the videos that I've been doing recently, so that's pretty cool, and gives you something different to try. And I think this guy's a really awesome little figure. He's just simple little ghoul with a cowl on and an axe, but he's fun. He's got some interesting forms here which will be fun to paint, so I think that's pretty good. So yeah, let's get started, eh? Okay, so to start with, we're going to do the underpainting. So we're going to start with that raw purple, and you just get some onto your palette and a little bit of water with it, maybe one drop or two, and just enough so it's thin, it spreads, and you'll just see me undercoating all of the skin. So we're just going to get a nice even coat, and this is going to set us up for what comes after. So this is the base sort of shadow of the skin under the surface, if you think about it like that. So once it's all covered, then we move into the next color, and that's the magenta. Now with the magenta, what we're really trying to do is, think about the areas on the anatomy where blood might come to the surface, or there might be discolorations in the skin, that sort of thing. And so you're going to dab the magenta around in sort of not all over, and you don't have to worry about blending it or anything, just dabbing it in the areas where that sort of thing is going to happen. So around the knees, the hands, the face, chest, etc. Anywhere where the anatomy meets another part of the sculpt, so the clothing, etc. So those deep shadows, that sort of thing, you're going to just add a little bit of that magenta in and try to create now a pattern of purple and magenta across the surface. And then once you're happy with that level, then we move into the jade. Now for the jade, you're looking at sort of like spot areas, almost like hot spots. So I've put some around the face, the hands, that sort of thing, a little bit on the legs, but tried to keep it more towards the top of the body. So we've got like a bit of a contrast between the jade green and the magentas and purples maybe down the bottom. So you get a little bit of difference, slight variation across the underpainting, but that should be enough to get us started. And so now that we have that underpainting down, we can now start the top layers. So we've set up that palette there. We've got that Thunderous Blue, the Sunrise Blue, the Marine Mist, and white, and you're going to start with that Thunderous Blue as the base color, and just not exactly cover all of the areas. You're going to see me sort of feather it across the anatomy, across the muscle structures, and leave a lot of those colors in the crevices and grooves to give you the shadows, and sort of blend it in by feathering the edge of the brush across it in sort of sinuous lines. You got to imagine this ghoul with its sort of flexing muscles, very sinuous, very stringy, and you're creating this kind of pattern across the surface so that you get a lot of those undertones showing through, and you keep the paint relatively thin so that you're not over saturating the area with that blue. You just want to start to build in and tie all that color together, leaving some areas where you're going to get that nice pop of color. And so once we've got that, then we move into our first sort of base layer, which is the sunrise mixed with the thunderous, and it's like a 50-50 mix. And this is where you're going to start to modulate that surface, hit those main forms on the anatomy. And because this is a sort of a bent over kind of creature, you want to aim for the top areas, the areas that are facing the sun. So and leave the undersides mostly in those darker colors, and that will also speed up your time, and you'll get a nice bigger contrast between light and dark. So as we move through that layer, then we go into the straight sort of sunrise blue, and this is what your main layer here, where you're going to establish the brightness on the skin. skin. So again, concentrating on the top surfaces of those of that anatomy, you'll see me go around and just pick a lot of those areas and give it a good detail, and mostly focusing around the focal points, so the face, the hands, etc., tops of the knees, to sort of draw your eye towards the center of the model. And then once we've got that down, then we move into the highlight layers. So we've got that marine mist with the sunrise, and you're just going to be now even hitting less of the model. So you're trying to now hit the tops of the knees, tops of the thighs there, the hands, etc. And again, feathering it in and trying to sort of minimize the you know, covering too much of the model, so that you're just trying to pick out details and make it sort of bright in areas so that you can read the figure more, right? So that's the idea. And now you're going to be coming down a brush, and we're going into that straight marine mist, and again highlighting the top surfaces, highlighting even less now. So now we've got a big contrast between the darks underneath and the lights on top. So you should be seeing that happen across the surface. So paying more attention to, let's say, the top of the back, etc., than the underside, keeping that really purple magenta tone under there. So you'll start to get that illusion of shadows happening, etc., as if it was a larger creature than what it is, this little tiny model. So once you're happy with that amount, then we move into the final highlight, which is sort of a spot highlight. And with this, it's got white mixed in with it, and like I always do, we do these little spot highlights, and what you're trying to pick out is now just around the focal point, so the face, the hands, the tops of the knees, maybe the top of the back there as you move around the model, and just picking those fine points of light where the brightness is going to show, where the sun is hitting the surface of the top point. So you know, across the front of the face there, knuckles, etc., knees, and you should end up with a really lovely blend of light to dark from the top of the model down to the bottom of the model, and it'll end up with a really nice pattern across all of it. And once you finish all of the rest of the model, you'll end up with a really good result. And there we go, some nice fun blue ghoul flesh on a Decapitator, or Royal Decapitator. Let's take a look. So yeah, I mean, I love doing blue flesh on these sort of guys. If you have a look at my my own brand, Blood of Gods, you'll see that my ghouls are often in blue. I think all of them are almost. I really like this kind of blue flesh on a ghoul. It's pretty fun, and if you splash in those sort of magentas and purples and greens and so on, well, in this case jade, you get some really interesting effects going on. I think it's really fun, so it's definitely something worth trying. You know, you might do it just on a single character like this character model. You may not do it across, you know, a whole army like this, but once you get fast enough you can. But you know, it's a good fun challenge when you're doing like an individual character, and just to give him some interest and, you know, a few other little colors going on than just doing like standard flesh tones. I think that's a really fun one to try, and it's, you know, monsters, you can do basically anything you like, and I think that's really cool. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Yeah, I certainly have, and I'll be adding him to the collection with my my yellow king. That's another ghoul video I've done on the channel if you want to check that out, doing yellow flesh. That was a fair while ago now, but it's still there. And so yeah, I'll leave a nice image for this one at the end, and the paint list I normally do. But hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the like button, subscribe button, it really helps me out, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.